Welcome to GOlive TV, the future in your hands. The only multicultural IPTV station that brings communities together. Over 2.7 million people have already watched. GOlive TV, anytime, anywhere.
Ora, bem-vindos a mais uma edição do Dentro Toronto e de Manuel Alexandre, aqui nas ondas do GOlive TV, dentro do centro de Toronto, nesta grande metrópole, para cima de 3 milhões de habitantes e continua a crescer. Estamos aqui para todo o mundo e hoje na nossa programação começa um pouco mais cedo pelo facto que vamos ter uma programação, se tudo correr bem, muito interessante. Iremos ter a conversa aqui com um membro do Provincial Parliament, uma pessoa amiga nossa, uma pessoa simpática, amiga desta casa, o Mr. Faisal Hassan. Iremos também depois falar com a Candice Bergen, que é a Interim Leader do Partido Conservador em Ottawa, por volta das 5 horas. E depois, por volta das 5h20, iremos falar com a Mayor, a Honourable Mayor Hazel McKellar, uma senhora com 101 anos de idade, na qual renovou um contrato agora para ser parte da direção do aeroporto aqui de Toronto, do Pearson Airport, International Pearson Airport, um aeroporto dos maiores do Canadá, é o maior do Canadá, e ela faz parte da direção como conselheira também e diretora. Extraordinário. Vai ser um programa cheio, uma senhora com 101 anos, vocês irão admirar, portanto, o entusiasmo e a energia que aquela senhora tem, que é fora do normal. É um exemplo para nos dar a todos nós, todos. Quando às vezes estamos mal, ou às vezes nos queixamos, ou às vezes falamos disto ou daquilo, reparem, pessoas que levam a vida de uma maneira diferente, tal como essa senhora Hazel McKellar, com 101 anos de idade, que irá estar aqui, e graças ao nosso amigo Teixeira também, que está a colaborar com isso. De maneira que vamos a um pequeno comercial e voltamos imediatamente à conversa com o nosso amigo, membro do Provincial Parliament, muito simpático, uma pessoa, Faisal Hassan, ok? Até breve e façam o sharing deste programa com todos os vossos amigos e família. Até já.
Hi, this is Faisal Hassan, your member of Provincial Parliament. My office is here to help you. My office is located at 1965 Western Road. You can reach me at 416-243-7984. And you can email me fhassan-co@ndp.on.ca. Thank you.
Ora, bem-vindos novamente, pois vamos estar aqui à conversa com o nosso amigo e amigo desta casa, o membro do Provincial Parliament aqui da província do Ontário, do Partido National Democratic Party e, portanto, do York South. Agora we're going to start the conversation over here. First of all, Mr. Faisal, I'd like to welcome you again to the program. You're a familiar face to our program over here, to GOlive, and to the introduction Manuel Alexandre. We appreciate the fact that you are here. And as a politician from National Democratic Party, these 4 years, how has it been in politics? Tell me a little bit about how the 4 years, if you are happy, what can more be accomplished, and what should more be accomplished as well. You got quite a few minutes to explain yourself to our Portuguese listeners.
Thank you, Manuel. Thank you, Manuel, and thank you, Saluto, obrigado,
De
for
nada.
inviting me for this afternoon, and I appreciate it. And also, of course, the last 4 years has been very difficult here, especially the last 2 years. We've seen a lot of people have been really struggled with pandemics. We've lost a lot of our seniors. Things have been tough, and the government wasn't there for the community. We've seen the situations of the long-term care. A lot of our seniors have perished, and the conditions in which they have suffered has been also exposed by the military. And what they have revealed there is something we all knew about it. We raised about it many, many years and continue to. So the bottom line here is the nature of privatization and profit maximization on the conditions of our seniors. And there is no money, Manuel, to make on the backs of our seniors. We should be there for them, and we should provide them support for 4 hours and a half of daily care every day, and we have to move it into non-profit system where every dollar is spent of care and service for our seniors. We've seen also frontline workers and our heroes and those who have been champions moving the province forward. These are, nurses, cleaners, drivers, and all these people. Even the Premier Ford calls them champions, and he calls them heroes. But when it comes to compensation, about their compensations and about their rights, he brings bills like 124. And we're going to rebuild that, and we are going to respect them, because they are truly our champion and our heroes. We have seen also many members of our community struggle every day. You see, in my community of York Southwestern, people are decent, they're hardworking. All they need is the government to do their part. They're doing their best to manage their lives. The cost of living is very hard. They can't afford life, they can't afford housing, and also the auto insurance. Many of the jobs in this community have left because of free trade, as you know, in the 90s, manufacturing and others. And still many folks who are working and finding jobs, they're finding it elsewhere outside of the community. Therefore, they require a vehicle to go from A to B. And in our community and many communities like Brampton and Scarborough and North York and here in York Southwestern, we pay higher premiums of auto insurance. And that's simply because of our address, because of where we live. And that is not right. Auto insurance should only be based on the car you drive and your driving record. And it is not. And we could have accomplished a lot to put forward, making sure that our schools are supported. We've seen that we've called for smaller class sizes, hiring more teachers, also more educational workers, and dealing with the issues of ventilation. Many of our schools are old schools. And this government, the Ford Conservatives, they are in the process of also privatizing our education. And we don't want that. We want public education, like they do on our healthcare.
You mentioned a good point when they brought in the militaries in order to find out exactly how miserable were those long-term cares, how poor they were, and they have been neglected throughout many years already, right?
Yes.
And I think that was an open eye or an eye-opener for everyone to pay attention to what's going on, because the elderly, they don't deserve to be treated that way.
Absolutely, because our seniors, as you know, they have built this great city and this province. And when they need our help, the previous governments, conservatives and liberals alike, they privatized. And even the premier, the former premier, Mike Harris, was also sitting those boards. And they're making money on behalf of these seniors. There's no money to make out of on the backs of our seniors. We are going, an NDP government is going to put seniors first and remove profit out of the seniors' care. Absolutely. It should be like home. It should be like making sure that every dollar spent, it goes to service. And also also making sure that also BSWs are also paid well. And most of them were working part-time basis and precarious conditions. And because these folks, they don't care about the service of our seniors and the people who work there. The bottom line for them is profit maximization. And that's what killed many seniors, and the conditions also. And this government also is, and the previous government also, are part of the privatization agenda in this regard. And we need to be vigilant and stand up. And this election coming up is also very important to make sure that we focus our seniors and make sure that we fix this, and together we can fix together by making sure the seniors are put first and listened. We know that what needs to be done. We need to provide a 4.5-day daily care, and also every dollar should be and service directed to the seniors, not for profit and dividends and so forth. Yeah.
You mentioned one point too, the nurses or the people that take care of the seniors. You mentioned a good point too, because some of them, the wages are not very high, and some of them, they would have to take 2 or 3 jobs. And sometimes they would get sick in one area, bringing the sickness to the other area, right? So that was one of the points that during the COVID-19, that was one of the things that they were finding out, either on a private sector as well as on the houses run by the government. So, and I think that at one point they stopped that by increasing as well, encourage the nurses or the people that take care of the elderly, encourage them to stay in one place only by increasing a little bit the wages. I think was $1 or whatever it was.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing also, workers, I said that we call them our heroes and our champions.
Yeah,
the Premier
exactly.
likes to call them. But when it comes to compensation, he bills like 124. Yeah. And we're going to rebuild that bill. And furthermore, these workers, when they get sick, and they're working because they have no other option but to keep going working. And we advocated for paid sick days for workers, and for 10 days, and also an emergency period for 14 days. And this is very crucial, because we don't want those who are serving our seniors, our sick ones, and others. They should be, if they're sick, they should stay home, and they shouldn't be worried about wages. They should be staying home, and we should be providing them paid sick days. This government let us down, again, when it comes to workers and their rights. And what do? They simply bring, 3 days for a specific period. It's not permanent either. So what we have been calling them is to implement 10 days, paid sick days, and also during like pandemics for 14 days. And that's also we need to actually, not just, we don't need only words. And this premier seems to talk about whatever comes to mind, but he has no action. And I think this is what also people should understand clearly. Now, it has been worse, and also we've seen the last 15 years also, we had a liberal government that has taken the votes of our community for granted. And what have they done? We have become an afterthought in our community. And that's why we need to send them a strong message. And this election also, we need strong local voice. Yeah. And I'm that local voice because I have lived this community over 20 years. I have worked in the community for many, many years before I was elected. And now I still live in the community, and unlike others who have been parachuted in this community.
Faisal, in your office, what are the main complaints, or what are the main asking help for it? What are the main issues in there in your area? What do you classify the main issues?
Absolutely. I mean, number one issue is housing, and other issues of affordability issues, because our seniors are living in fixed income, as you know. They are having pension, and there's no other money coming in. And every year, their housing rent goes up because there is no rent control in this province, as you know. Furthermore, also, there is also above guideline rent increases, which many landlords, especially some of them in our community, like the ones that own the 33 King, they have been applying every year, the last 4 years, for above rent guideline increase, which means that they could put every year certain percentages, plus also annual increases. And if your income is fixed, How are you going to survive and continue to pay your rent? So especially the seniors are struggling. That's why we need strong rent control, a real rent control to implement it, but also dealing with and removing above guideline rent increases, because the maintenance and repairs is the responsibility of the landlord, not the tenant. And many young people also in our community, as I said, housing is number one issue in our community, they cannot afford a place of their own because that dream is gone, a community in which they grew up, and now they have to go somewhere else to live. And that's not right, and that's unacceptable. So what we are going to do, we have a vision, and our vision for housing, we have released it for the last 2 years. Now we have many options for the community. Many young people, as I said, they're decent, they're working hard, but it's difficult for them to save that money of the 10% down payments. Yeah. So what we're going to do, Manuel, is to give the members of the community who could gain a mortgage 10% equity loans of down payment. And that you can buy that equity whenever you wanted it, or when you sold your house, you can actually pay it back at that time. So you don't worry about it. But I think that also gives opportunity, many members of our community, to become also owners of their own property. And that's one option that we could give also those who make less than 200,000, to also get that equity loans of 10% of the down payments of the house. Mm-hmm. Furthermore, there are others who are unable to actually carry on a mortgage. And we need to make sure that also we build affordable housing. We also make sure that we also define what that means. So, it has to be 30% of your income, and also making sure that also we build more cooperative housing. We have seen that so many cooperative are working, and it's really a communal, they make their own decisions, it's a community-making process, they have their own board, and that's also another way of making also housing affordable. And we need to make sure also we have real rent control.
Yeah. Those are great points. Faisal, your boss, Andrea Orvat, she's been advocating for Brampton for the third hospital. Mm-hmm. What's your standing on that?
Well, that's excellent. my leader, Andrea Horvath, is doing a fantastic. And I knew that before I was elected also, I worked with Andrea because I was her special assistant for a short period of time. I know she cares. She's strong. And she has a team that is ready, working for you. And we need to build Brampton. Brampton has been neglected. Yeah. It has been neglected. They need even 4 hospitals, not 3, because the population of Brampton is 700,000 people. Just one hospital? That's not a leadership. And this premier and previous governments have let down Brampton, mm-hmm. not only Brampton, but across the province. We deserve better. And we need a premier like Andrea Horvath who cares the people of Brampton and the people of this province. And definitely, I support that, and that's a great vision, and that's what people of Brampton deserve.
Another thing, fighting crime, either on the GTHA or Toronto, whatever, on this area. What are the plans, if there are any plans to fight crime? We know the crime, it's first of all, comes from the family. That's lack of a father or lack of a mother or lack of both of them being able to provide for the son or the daughter. And sometimes they're going to a wrong direction. And I think the main problem is that, or the divorces where the kids become by themselves after, and then they get into gangs and all of that. What are the plans, do you think, that could be imposed in order to help the crime and to help this situation?
Absolutely. Manuel, we have here a neglect of not only our community, but this province, not only the last 4 years, but the last 15 years. Crime issue is about issue of poverty. We have to tackle the issue of poverty and lack of opportunities and investment for communities. Cutting education, cutting healthcare, cutting investments for young people is not a leadership that Ford Conservatives and the previous Kathleen Wynne governments have been operating in this province. Definitely we need a different direction, and one of the ways to tackle is multiple ways to do it. One way is first and foremost, early on, providing young people opportunities. How do we do that? For example, our young people are in colleges and universities. They are doing the best. They're doing their best. They're trying, but all they need is government to be there to help them, to provide them internships, placements, and co-ops. And that's one of the motions I put in this session of Parliament in February 28, 2019. And that was work integrated learning. School and work go hand in hand. We need to invest our young
That's for
people
sure,
to
yes.
gain the experience that they need to get a full employment. Not only those who are in colleges and universities, but also those who recently graduated should be also eligible and be paid. There are many young people who are just wandering on the streets, have nothing else to do. And you are right, those other bad elements might be recruiting them for other things, but if we reach them out and provide them the opportunities to take them into skilled trades, and if they are not good in math and in physics, because even in skilled trades, you need some physics and some math, so we can upgrade them. Why not pay them to go into the skilled trades and upgrade them? And there are many young people also who are already in prisons and detention centers. Those folks, can you believe it, Manuel? They don't have education there. Why don't we then bring education to them? For example, our justice system is, it's not only punishment. When we punish people who commit crimes, we also need, they make mistakes, so I get that, but we need also to rehabilitate them, to provide them training and opportunities. And that's what's lacking. What's lacking is leadership, and we need to provide strong leadership that the Andrew Horvath and myself and the entire, our team is providing, and also a team that's ready, have the experience to make sure that this province is going to be on the right hands by a government headed by Andrew Horvath that's working for you.
Faisal, many years ago when I came to Canada, the high schools not only teach, but also had part of the skill trade. You could take a side of the mechanic, you take an electrician, you take whatever the schools had, and the millwrights. They had this also, the disciplines in there, the subjects. They had the subjects in there that people could follow, because not everyone can be a lawyer, not everyone can be a doctor. You need the skilled labor. You need everybody, right?
Yes.
And I think the high schools at that time, they were doing a great job. And then suddenly became this word that was discrimination against people that were taking those high-skilled jobs or learning mechanic or learning electrician. They were being disadvantaged. In reality, we're seeing the disasters today.
Yeah, but I mean, Manuel,
This was on a high school.
right? No, I hear. I mean, the concern you mentioned is about academics versus non-academics. I agree with you. We can focus academics in all subjects and also addition to the skill trades. So it's not either or.
Yeah.
So every student who wants to study skill trades, well, they also study physics and math and academics as well. We can do together at the same time. But I think what was happening is just streaming some members of our community into not academically. They could not read and write, and that's why we need to also make sure that academics is there and focused and expand also into opportunities of skilled trades. And furthermore, also we need to open the schools for young people. When the schools is closed, then they could come back and have extra help and also training and also sports activities. So schools could be a community hub and also put resources necessary. But it doesn't help when Ford conservatives cut investments for communities, for young people, for youth, and other things. That's not leadership. And we've seen also the last 15 years, which was also bad.
One of the points, the education,
Yes.
is the basic fundamentals of any country in the world.
Yeah.
Especially in Canada with the foundation by Bill Davis, where he was concerned with colleges and universities. And about 50 years ago, was just university not long ago, when was the anniversary of all the universities and colleges, the opening in the years 70s. And I think that was really great, a great program to go forward, to catch everyone to be lawyers, doctors, nurses, whatever, mechanics, electricians, all the trades that the country needs. And I think this was a great system. But that system somehow, I think in the past 20 years, has been declined, not only in Canada, same as in my country, Portugal. The same in there. They took the trades out of the schooling system, which was a negative thing, and eventually we'll see the problems later on. I think that's what's happening now. But I think I heard already conversations that things are start to reverse because Canada is short of labor.
I mean, the problem here is we had governments that have neglected, and they also shipped our manufacturing jobs out of the country. I agree with you, we could do many things, and we have to put people first, and we have to make sure that we invest our young people. Opportunities, because I'm the youth, official opposition's youth opportunities critic, and I've been advocating to make sure that school and work go hand in hand.
Faisal, thank you so much. It was a pleasure to have you here, and hope to see you before the elections, okay?
Thank you.
And good luck, and continue to work good on your office and help the people that you can.
Thank you very much.
God bless
Obrigado.
you, okay?
Obrigado. Thank you.
Obrigado também. All right, tivemos assim a conversa com um membro do Provincial Parliament do Partido Conservador. Boas ideias, boas estatísticas, boas vá lá, ideologias. Por vezes é só uma ideologia que se apanha, mas de qualquer forma a parte principal do National Democratic Party está lá e o fundamento principal. De maneira que vamos a um pequeno comercial para irmos até Ottawa a falar com Candice Bergen. Até já.
Bem-vindos à GOlive TV, a primeira estação IPTV intercultural que transmite mais de 50 programas em 22 idiomas diferentes. Aqui na GOlive TV, você também pode reservar seu evento em nossos estúdios. Temos disponíveis green screen, cenários variados, uma cozinha totalmente equipada, estúdio de notícias, estúdio fotográfico, palco com video wall, uma estação de rádio e podcast, e muito mais. GOlive TV é a única multimídia que reúne em apenas um lugar tudo o que você precisa para levar o seu evento para um alto nível. Reserve agora! GOlive TV a qualquer hora e em qualquer lugar.
Ora, estamos de volta novamente. Good afternoon. We're going to enter now Ottawa to talk to Candice Bergen, the interim leader of the Conservative Party. Candice, it is an honor and a pleasure to have you with us over here today in Toronto with Manuel, Alexandre. Thank you so much and welcome.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm having a little bit of a hard time hearing you. Hopefully you can hear me just fine.
I can hear you great. Okay. First of all, it is the first time that you are addressing the Portuguese community. I know on Saturday you're going to address it again in Brampton, and it is great to see finally a leader, interim leaders of the Conservative Party in Ottawa, reaching the Portuguese community. Thank you so much for that, Candice. Thank you so much. Candice, we're going to start with some questions over here. Talk to us first about the agreement, governing agreement with the NDP and the Liberal. Give us a sense what's happening in there, your opinion about that.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. It is an honor and a privilege to be able to be on your program and to be able to address the Portuguese community here in Canada. Some who are new to Canada and many who have been here for a long time. You bring such a wonderful warmth and vibrancy to who we are as Canadians. So thank you for having me on your program, and I'm looking forward to meeting more Portuguese Canadians on Saturday. In regards to the agreements, the coalition, some would call it, that the NDP and the Liberals have forged, I think what's very concerning for Conservatives who are in the opposition is that the Canadian people in the last election elected a minority Liberal government. And there's a reason for that. And there's a reason that a minority government functions differently than a majority government. The Liberals had a minority, and that meant that the opposition could really hold them to account, whether it was on bad fiscal management, whether it was on the way they handled the economy, on ethics issues, on transparency. We could hold them to account. Now that they've formed this coalition with the NDP, and the NDP have promised to support them and prop them up, it's going to be much more difficult because the Liberals basically will say, we can do whatever we want. The NDP will prop us up, and in return, we will spend a lot of money on big permanent programs that the NDP have asked for that actually fall within provincial jurisdiction. Many of them do. So it's a loss for democracy in Canada. It's a loss for Parliament, for sure. But even more than that, it's a loss for Canadian people. It's a loss for the taxpayers of Canada, a loss for families who are worried about the economy and the future of the economy for their children. And the only thing I can say is this, Manuel: Conservatives will not stop doing our job, and we will work hard to hold the Liberals to account, and hopefully maybe see some division and maybe encourage the NDP to not be quite as cozy as they promised to be.
The budget that was recently announced, I'd like you to share with us your opinion about the budget and also the inflation in Canada.
Well, there were a few things we wanted to see in the budget. First of all, we've been very clear we wanted to see tax cuts for Canadians, specifically at the pumps. Gas is going through the roof. I'm from Manitoba, but I was just in British Columbia. I know in Ontario, gas is expensive, and that's meaning the cost of everything is going up. So we wanted to see tax cuts for Canadians in the budget. We didn't see that at all. The Liberals are sticking with their carbon tax, and they're going to be increasing it every year. We just saw an increase April 1st. That's going to be reflected as we see the cost of everything go up. So we were not happy the budget did not have tax cuts for Canadians. We also were concerned with big government spending. This government has increased the size of government and spending by 50% since they've taken government. Do you know what, Manuel? Our children and our grandchildren today have over $1 trillion in debt that they're going to have to pay back. And the deficit has gone out of control with the current government. So we were wanting to see spending pulled back and not more big permanent programs. So we were disappointed in some of that. But lastly, and this is really important, and it's the issue of housing inflation. Many young people now can't even imagine buying a home of their own. That was something that was attainable even 5 or 10 years ago. Young people could save and work and get a mortgage and buy a house. Now, as you know, even in Toronto, the cost of housing is through the roof. We wanted to see direct programs that would encourage cities and municipalities to see supply increased. So those were 3 things that we were disappointed in that we didn't see, and we'll keep advocating for that. Now, one more thing I should add, if we want to see the economy really take off in Canada, it's time that all of the vaccine mandates and restrictions were lifted. We believe the federal government should lift those mandates and should allow people to travel across the country, to be able to get back to work. Federal employees should be able to get back to work. So that's something that we've been calling for consistently as well.
That's very good. That's very good. Candice, how would a Conservative government plan differ from the Liberal plan that would address the stabilization and security of the hardest hit sectors on the Canadian economy coming out of COVID? How would the Conservative would address that?
Well, COVID has hit so many sectors. I'm from a rural area in Manitoba, and we've seen small businesses really impacted. They've done their best to get through it. We were glad to see supports that the government provided during COVID, and we even encouraged a change in how they were rolled out, and we were glad the government took our advice. But you're right, now as people are coming out of COVID, many of these sectors are still reeling, and we've seen businesses shut down, even in some of our communities in rural Manitoba. And I think the best thing that we can do is see every sector right across the country opened up and flourishing. The way to do that, and right now is a great opportunity for Canada's natural resources to be extracted and transported outside of Canada. With what's happened in Ukraine, with Russia and Putin's attack on Ukraine, the fact that Europe is so dependent on Russian oil, places like Europe need Canada's LNG. So we think one of the sectors that we'd like to see really expanded and growing is our natural resources. That should also go into our manufacturing. That should include our agriculture. That should include our tourism sector. That should include every sector in Canada should be flourishing. We should not be holding back. So we'd like to see the government make our competitiveness better. We should be attracting business and investment, because we should say Canada is open for business. Not more restrictions, even in terms of getting projects built, but saying we are going to respect the environment. We're going to be strong on environment and on ESG benchmarks. But we also can have a strong economy and have these sectors right across the country working. And we think that that is what's going to help get us going in a very strong way coming out of COVID. Now, the inflation piece, that's a big one. And people are feeling that. As I just mentioned a few moments ago, the price of gas has gone up, and that is increasing the cost of groceries. We know even rent, even for people who don't own a home, rent is high and it's going up. The cost of essentials is going up. In fact, inflation is at an all-time high, almost 7% inflation. We think that there are things the government can do. One of those things is control spending, and give people a tax break. So we're very conscious of this, and we're putting forward ideas all the time to give Canadians breaks. And unfortunately, they've been defeated by the NDP Liberal coalition.
We're going to talk a little bit international affairs. I know in a couple minutes you have to get going. I really appreciate this time. But last question is this. Why do you think this invasion has captured our attention, the invasion of Russia to Ukraine? Why did it capture the attention of Canadians? And given your relational similarities to Canadians themselves and Ukrainians, is Canada very approximate to Russia through the Arctic? Does Russia pose a threat to Canadians? So we have an invasion from Russia to Ukraine, and also we are thinking maybe imposing a risk on the Canadian waters, because if I know, up in north, close to the North Pole, we are somehow connected, right? Do you think there is any similarity in there with that?
Well, that's a very good question. And the invasion of Ukraine by Putin has really put a number of these issues top of mind for us in Canada. And I think the government is recognizing it. I know we've been talking about it with them. You pointed to 2 or 3 things, and I will highlight them quickly. First of all, Canada should be providing support to Ukrainians in every way possible that we can. These people, we have so many Ukrainians who live in Canada, even again in my riding. We have the largest Ukrainian population outside of Ukraine here in Canada. And these are peace-loving people that deserve to have their country and their democracy. So we need to be standing up for Ukraine against Putin's aggression. But secondly, we have to recognize that our own Arctic sovereignty is in play. And it's something that this Liberal government has sadly neglected. They've neglected the Arctic. They've neglected our NORAD and even our obligations under NATO. And so we believe as Conservatives that all of government, all parties should come together to support the efforts to protect the Arctic, because we do share a northern border with Russia. So it's not something that we can take lightly. And then lastly, we believe now is the time to get pipelines built right across this country so that we can get Canadian oil, gas, and LNG to places outside of Canada, Europe, in South Asia, places where they need Canadian oil, gas, and LNG. This is the best time for us to do it. And I believe that Canada needs leadership. We haven't seen it with the current government. Conservatives have always been champions of Canada's natural resources, and with what Russia has done in Ukraine, this is the best time to do it.
And we thank you so much on behalf of the Portuguese community. We thank you so much for your presence over here, for your words, very kind words, very encouraging for the economy of Canada. And we hope to see you Saturday then, okay? We'll see you in Brampton Saturday.
That's great. Thank you so much. Hope to see many of you on Saturday. Bye-bye.
E assim tivemos a conversa com uma das deputadas, portanto, interim leader do Partido Conservador em Ottawa. Vamos a um pequeno comercial, voltamos já com uma senhora extraordinária. Até já.
Bem-vindos à GOlive TV, a primeira estação IPTV intercultural que transmite mais de 50 programas em 22 idiomas diferentes. Aqui na GOlive TV, você também pode reservar seu evento em nossos estúdios. Temos disponíveis green screen, cenários variados, uma cozinha totalmente equipada, estúdio de notícias, estúdio fotográfico, palco com video wall, uma estação de rádio e podcast e muito mais. GOlive TV é a única multimídia que reúne em apenas um lugar tudo o que você precisa para levar o seu evento para um alto nível. Reserve agora GOlive TV a qualquer hora e em qualquer lugar.
Olá, eu sou Manuel Alexandre, estou aqui no GOlive TV, a televisão que fala a minha língua. Ora, bem-vindos novamente aqui ao programa de Toronto e de Manuel Alexandre. Estou tão contente que vocês nem imaginam. Eu vou primeiramente, antes de entrarmos à conversa com a senhora Hazel McKellen, a Honorable Mayor Hazel McKellen, antes de entrarmos à conversa com ela, que vai ser em inglês, obviamente, eu vou dar aqui uma biografia desta senhora para vocês admirarem o talento e a força desta senhora. Chamada, portanto, aos 101 anos, o furacão Hazel permanece como diretora do aeroporto do Pearson, o maior aeroporto do Canadá. A mulher que dividiu a sua longa vida entre o empreendedorismo e a causa pública viu o seu contrato como presidente do Conselho de Administração de grande autoridade aeroportuária de Toronto, que gera o Pearson, renovado por mais 3 anos. Portanto, essa senhora renovou o contrato por mais 3 anos. Extraordinário. O facto é notícia por causa da sua idade, 101 anos. Hazel foi durante 36 anos a presidente da Câmara de Mississauga, e a sexta maior populosa municipalidade do Canadá, que é Mississauga, a terceira maior do Canadá e a segunda maior região metropolitana de Toronto. E quando renunciou ao cargo, que não procurou por qualquer casa de repouso, em vez disso passou a assumir uma posição entre os conselheiros do primeiro-ministro desta província, do Ontário, e a estar entre os conselheiros especiais da Universidade de Toronto e Mississauga. Nasceu a 14 de fevereiro. That's my mother's anniversary as well. Nasceu a 14 de fevereiro de 1921, em Port Daniel, em Quebec. Hazel começou a frequentar a escola de secretariado de empresas, uma vez que a família não tinha dinheiro para a inscrever no ensino superior. No entanto, o que aprendeu no curso granjeou-lhe um lugar na multinacional Kellogg, todos nós conhecemos, tem sido transferida para Toronto em 1942, onde ajudou a estabelecer o escritório local daquela empresa de cereais. Paralelamente, dava cartas no hockey, modalidade que começou a praticar quando era criança. Jogou profissionalmente em Montreal e em 1987, depois de ter sido retirada das pistas no torneio mundial do hóquei feminino, a Federação Internacional do Hóquei, o troféu foi batizado com o seu nome de Hazel McCallion. A viragem da sua vida dá-se em 1967, aos 46 anos de idade, quando decide trocar a carreira empresarial por um lugar na política. Quase uma década depois, nas eleições municipais de 1976, McCallion ganhou o seu lugar no Conselho de Mississauga por aclamação. E na altura que ela foi eleita presidente da Câmara, já tinha assento em praticamente todas as comissões da região de Peel e Mississauga. Uma curiosidade, Hazel McCallion ganhou sempre, sem grande dificuldade, o município que nunca teve feito campanha eleitoral. E, aliás, recusou-se a aceitar dinheiro para os donativos para a sua campanha eleitoral, pedindo aos seus apoiantes para que o dinheiro fosse para instituições de beneficência. Grande mulher. O seu último mandato conquistado em 2010 foi o seu 12º consecutivo, apenas porque não decidiu recandidatar, senão ainda lá estava. Assim, Hazel não deixou o lugar vazio, endossou a conselheira ex-deputada federal Bonnie Crombie, que conquistou a posição sem dificuldades. A nível internacional, McCallion foi no Canadá pioneira da criação de um Estado palestiniano, tendo abordado o tema durante a Convenção Anual da Federação Árabe Canadiana em 1983. Hazel McCallion, there is a lot more to say about you. Thank you so much. And this is amazing. The Portuguese people are going to say, what a friend that Manuel has in there on interviewing. I'm so happy that you are here with us today. Hazel, tell us a little bit more about you now. One thing that you had very important during those 36 years as a mayor, what were the things that you had really passion, things that you really overcame that sometimes with the ambiance, let's say, with the men only, almost in every job. And you were successful almost in every aspect, in every challenge that you had in there. I remember the 1979 challenge. Talk to us about that, please.
Well, as mayor of Mississauga, I was elected in 1978, and then we had I was elected in 1978 as mayor. And then the fall of 79, of course, we hit the derailment, and Mississauga was portrayed all over the world. We had reporters come from Europe, etc., to find out what happened. They thought a city had been completely blown up, which so it was quite an experience. But as a new mayor, I had a lot of help. The province sent people out. And I had good staff. The city had good staff. And so we had to evacuate, though, 230,000 people. And they were all very obedient. They all went when I said they had to go. I'm not sure today they would go, but in those days, I was very honest with the people, saying this is dangerous, and for your good, you should leave. And they left.
Yeah, in fact, this morning I was talking with someone that was one of the person that was evacuated into Square One.
I remember the night the fire chief called me at 2 minutes to 11 on November the 10th and said, you know, there's been a derailment at Mavis Road. And he said we had to evacuate all the people right around the area. And they're all in Square One. Square One opened up their big mall, and they were there in their night clothes. The police wouldn't even give them time to get dressed. They said, no, you got to get out. It's chlorine, it's deadly, and we don't know how far, depending on which way the wind blew, the chlorine that was coming out of the hole in the chlorine tank, they didn't know where it would be going. So, but the people evacuated, and they were out for almost a whole week. But it was quite an experience, especially as a new mayor.
You were able to coordinate. That's the part that I admire, and millions of people admire as well. You were able to coordinate everyone. Let's do this, let's do that, let's go over there. You were able to do, that's almost impossible, especially for a mayor that has been in place just for 1 year. But you were able to do it all.
Yeah.
And this is amazing. I think this is one of your highlights, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, yeah, it certainly was. I think it put Mississauga on the world map, for one thing, because people, as I say, reporters came from many parts of the world who flew in. They thought the city had really been blown up. So it was good. But you know, what is so important is, as a result of the Mississauga derailment, we now have safer rail service. One thing, so often a disaster or something happens, and they don't do a thorough analysis. Why did it happen? How did it happen? How should it be dealt with? We did that, and so rail safety and road safety in Canada for the transportation of dangerous goods is under control. It wasn't then. Everything, any truck that travels on our roadways, either in the city of Mississauga or on the Highway 401, they have to identify what's in that truck. And the driver has to carry the papers of the content of the truck. So that if anything happens, the fire department responding, wherever it happens, either on the highway or within a community, they know how to deal with it. You don't put water on some chemicals. You need foam.
So that was a result of, because of that disaster, how to improve for the future, for the same thing not to happen. And I think that was the outcome, if I could say that.
I think we're very proud of what happened. The federal government set up a committee of chemical companies, the rail lines, and emergency services. And I was appointed to sit on that committee as the mayor of Mississauga. And there were very little regulations then on the transportation of dangerous goods by either rail or road or water. Now there's all kinds, about 5 feet high, the regulations, so that they can be dealt with if there's an incident, either a derailment or a road accident on a highway. It could be dealt with. Before there were no regulations.
That's great. As a McKellen, every Portuguese loves you, okay? I can say that with confidence. Every Portuguese loves you. Now, you also love the Portuguese community. I know on the Caraçaga, when you were about 82 years old, I danced with you in there during the Caraçaga.
Yeah. Well, you know, when I was mayor of Streetsville, 70 to 73, and I was Reed before then, the only ethnic people that lived in Streetsville was a couple of Chinese families, and the rest were Portuguese.
So
there were a few Italians, but Joe Modo was the one that came from the Azores, and a lot of people followed him. So the Portuguese Streetsville became known as a famous spot for Portuguese.
You also get along very well with Laiuna, Local 183.
Oh,
They all respect you like this. Talk to us a little bit about them.
Well, 183 Union, I've worked with the Portuguese for years. And of course, city of Mississauga was a rural area, all kinds of agricultural land. And so we built a city, took it from a rural area. Well, the Portuguese made a major contribution to the building of the city because they were in the construction business. And, I think the immigrants that have come from Portugal made a major contribution to the construction of buildings, not only in Mississauga, but throughout Canada.
Throughout Canada.
We depended a lot. The Italians came and built the roads and the sewers and the water lines, and the Portuguese came to build the buildings.
And the houses, and many things, the houses as well, right? A lot of construction in the housing, especially Streetsville. And then going to Brampton, the same thing?
Yeah, Brampton, it's amazing, huh? But I didn't realize till a few years ago that there are a lot of Portuguese at Brampton.
In Streetsville, there is also Luso Charity that you also... Luso Charity.
Oh, Luso.
Talk to us a little bit. How do you feel about it?
I'm a great supporter of Luso. Yeah. And the reason is that one of the greatest contributions we can make for those that can't help themselves. And when I see the young people and the adults that Luso looks after, that need help, it's tough on a family to have a child that can't look after themselves. And and I just think the Luso organization does such great good. We're so proud to have the Luso building in Streetsville on Queen Street North. Yeah. And, I've worked, Portuguese mean a lot to me because when I was mayor of Streetsville, I used to love to visit the Portuguese families. Yeah. And I remember I used to say, I'd go to their house and their kitchen was just immaculate, everything in order. I found out they did their cooking in the basement.
Oh, yeah. So the top was always clean.
Wonderful people. And when I was mayor of Streetsville, the the Chamber of Commerce of Streetsville, to help the retailers, did a survey about who are the bad people that don't pay. There wasn't one Portuguese on the list.
Amazing.
There were quite a few on the list that didn't pay their bills. But I remember so well. I remember that as I'll never forget. There wasn't one Portuguese on that list of people that didn't pay their bills.
Mayor, you say that Portuguese are responsible for their actions, I guess, eh?
Yeah. They work hard, they contribute, and they pay their way. Yeah. And they keep their property so nice. There's a street in Streetsville, Princess Street, and a lot of Portuguese.
I know you go a lot to the Portuguese Mississauga Club, Portuguese Cultural Center. Yeah. Tell us how you feel when you are in there.
I used to love to go. It was never a very good parking down on Dundas Street. But when they bought the Dominion store, I remember when Father Resendiz and the president of the Portuguese came to me and said they were going to buy the Dominion store. That was a Dominion store. I said, fantastic. And it is such a beautiful cultural center. They got upstairs and they got downstairs.
Downstairs, yeah.
It just, and Streetsville was where the Portuguese headquarters should be.
Not Brampton, Streetsville.
No, Streetsville. Yeah.
And the fact is, too, that they had the folkloric group in there, the folkloric group, and they had the seniors as well. They have the young club, like a club for the young people. Yeah. I mean, it's really nice. And Streetsville really opened the doors for that club as well. Oh, yeah. With your help, I'm sure.
Yeah, well, as I say, I remember the day so well when Father Resendiz and the president came and said they were going to buy the Dominion store. And I said, oh, just great, and make it in. Because I remember when we'd go down to the cultural center on Dundas, there never was adequate parking. It was really tough getting parked. And it was, it was in behind. And that cultural center serves other organizations well that use it. So, and to pick Streetsville for the cultural center was very important to me. Not Mississauga, Streetsville.
Streetsville. Oh, that's really good. Mayor, you had somehow connections with Brampton through our honorable friend, Bill Davis.
Yeah.
Talk to us a little bit, your relationship with a great man as well. You're a great lady and him a great politician as well. Talk to us, what was the relationship? How did you get along with him? Because I like to hear from you your experience with a great man as well.
Yeah. Well, I helped to get Bill Davis elected leader of the Conservative Party. And I stayed till 3 o'clock in the morning. They held a leadership contest at the Maple Leaf Gardens. And there were quite a few people running. And I think it took 4 votes to elect Bill Davis as leader. He didn't win in the first, and then we had to get a second and third.
Close call.
I think it was the 4th vote, either 4th or 5th. And I stayed to make sure I marked the ballot every time for Bill. He was a great man. I appreciated his, well, first of all, he brought community colleges to Ontario. Such a great contribution. Our community colleges in Ontario are making a major contribution to all sectors of the economy, the medical profession, etc. A lot of young people can't afford to go to university. And Bill, he told me one day when he was approached to bring, it was in the States, and somebody said, you should have community colleges in Ontario. And he told me, he said, I wondered what harm it would do to the universities, you see? But he said, I researched it and thought about it and discussed it. And he said, I said, well, Bill, that was one of the biggest contributions. You'll always be remembered for the contribution that you made by bringing community colleges to Ontario. And he was Mr. Education, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I was just talking with Hassel about that, about 50 years. Actually, was a few years ago, was the celebration of the 50th year of the opening of universities and colleges. Actually, I went to the Queen's Park on that day, where Bill Davis was there with the Honorable Liza McKellen as well, with a lot of directors and the people in charge of the colleges and universities. They were all in there on the ladders of the University of the Queen's Park.
Yeah. Well, he brought the University of Toronto to Mississauga as well, on Mississauga Road, and then he, of course, brought community colleges.
That was a big win, University of Mississauga.
Yeah, and the community. We have Sheridan. I'm the chancellor of Sheridan College, and we have a beautiful business school in Mississauga, and we have the most modern technical school in Brampton that produces the technicians to do the buildings.
I'm one of them.
It is a beautiful facility.
I was in there as well as on a Humber College. I was as well on the electronics technologist in there, and also on Humber College.
Yeah. And we have Sheridan College in Oakville, the creative section of it. And I'll tell you, they're graduates of their head for Hollywood.
Yeah. Sheridan College, I remember very well.
Sheridan makes a major contribution
Absolutely.
to the economy of Ontario and Canada, and even worldwide, because many of them go abroad. They go to California, just takes over all the students that graduate from Oakville.
Sheridan College in Oakville, I went in there in 1978 for English language.
Yeah.
That's what I
Okay,
learned.
yeah,
I don't
Lord.
speak very well, but anyways, that's my English. But I went in there for 6 months, and believe it or not, at the end of the 6 months, I was able to survive. I was able to register as an apprentice. I was able to start to follow my life that I've been planning for it. And that Sheridan College was excellent. The one in Brampton, excellent teachers.
Oh.
The excellent, the best.
It's the
And the
most-
Humber College too, Humber College as well.
The one in Brampton is the most up-to-date technical school in Canada. It is. It's got everything.
Mayor Hazel, if you would have had the chance of a lifetime to change something during your life or during your term as a politician, what would be that thing you would like to change?
What would be my choice?
Yeah.
If I had, yeah. Well, you know, I think that what we have to do is come up with a very, very determined and exciting way to convince the young people that the future of Canada is in their hands.
Absolutely.
And if they are committed and prepared to make a difference, because I think you have to have a desire to make a difference in the world, not just go along, but to say, how can we shape the future of Canada? I wish the young people would grab that theme and say, how can I contribute to shape the future of our great country? Because, you know, we're doing very well as Canada when you think of what's happening in other parts of the world.
Absolutely, yeah.
But we can't just ride on our success. We gotta make sure we're making a contribution to assuring a great future for Canada. And it's up to the young people, and it's in their hands.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with you. Hazel McKellen, you're very good friends of Portugal. I know you visit Portugal. You're very good friends with Portuguese, and you visit Portugal. Tell us about your visits to Portugal. Are the Azores or continent?
Well, my visit to Portugal was very exciting with Jack Prazeres
Oh, yeah.
and Nelson, etc.
Great man, too.
That was to the mainland, but I love the Azores.
Uh-huh.
I've been to Azores with David Tavares.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, who passed
There
away.
was- yes.
We're going to have a big celebration at the. I got the invitation today to recognize him.
See,
He
yeah,
made
yeah.
a major contribution,
Absolutely.
and he
absolutely.
was so proud of the Azores. I was over with him at a visit, and he made a major contribution. Great man, left us far too early, you know, etc. But he's left a legacy, in my opinion, in both the Azores and Canada.
Yeah,
So just another wonderful Portuguese that came to Canada and saw the opportunity that existed and made sure it happened and made sure he made his contribution.
To the family, our condolences, David Tavares. To the family, our condolences.
Yeah.
In the Azores, did you get the food? Was it according to your appetite, or was it
Well, of course, when I go to the Azores, I love the fish.
the fish? Okay.
I always order fish. I never touch meat. We eat meat in Canada, but when you go to the Azores, and I ate a lot of fish. In fact, I went out fishing.
No.
Yeah.
I think we have a video that we could see. Can you please put that video, just a minute or two of video? I think you are in there fishing, if I'm not mistaken. Let's watch that video. Thank you so much, Mr. McKellen. That picture, me and you, was in 1982. You still look the same. You still look beautiful. You still look good. You still look the same, very active, energetic. God bless you for the work that you've been doing. But no, we're not finished yet. We're not finished yet. Mr. McKellen, there was this talking about the regional appeal and Brampton, being Mississauga and Brampton, being separated, making two municipalities. What do you think would be good? Do you think it should stay the way it is? What's your opinion regarding to that?
Well, let's put it this way. The city of Mississauga picks up more cost of the region appeal than Brampton does, because it's based on assessment. And of course, our city was well ahead in assessment. We had a lot of industrial assessment, etc. So we have been bearing the cost of Brampton. Brampton now we were picking up 62% of the cost of operating the region appeal. It's now dropping gradually as Brampton grows and gets more development and assessment. But in the beginning, we were paying a lot of money, and Caledon can't operate on its own. Caledon would go bankrupt
For sure.
if it had to operate on its own. So therefore, the city of Mississauga, we were subsidizing the taxpayers of Brampton and Caledon. And, you know, I felt very strongly about that we should be on our own. So, but anyway, the province wouldn't go for it. We tried. We made an effort, did a big study, etc., but the province wouldn't go for it.
Do you think when Mississauga was increasing, was growing, industrial, and everything, you think Brampton was also supporting part of taxes Mississauga or not?
Well, that Brampton now?
Yeah, Brampton now.
Well, Brampton Industrial is growing. Yeah. But, you know, we have the airport in Mississauga. We get a big contribution from the airport. But the city of Mississauga had a good, the town of Mississauga, that's before we became a city, had a very active industrial commissioner. And he brought a lot of companies to Mississauga. You know, we have 55 of the Fortune 500 head offices in our city. So we have a very large economic base that Brampton doesn't have and still hasn't got. Like the Chrysler plant was the big development in Brampton. But in Mississauga, we had a lot.
And also in terms of hospitals, right? Mississauga has 3 big, huge hospitals. And the population is close to 1 million now, no? In Mississauga. Yeah. So it is, but I think under your leadership, Mississauga got what it needed to become a great city as it is right now.
Well, I remember when I made a decision that we needed another hospital. You can't allow growth to get completely out of whack with the development, with the citizens. Yeah. And I always felt that Mississauga tried to keep a balance between growth and making sure we had the facilities, community facilities, even simple things like baseball diamonds and ice arenas, etc. You gotta make sure that the community facilities are there for the people that are going to come and live in your city. And if you let that get out of whack, you're in trouble.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. And I think Brampton right now, it's kind of expanding on that way. Yeah. We're having more arenas, we have more sports concepts. So we kind of growing a little bit more. But it's been very, very slow in Brampton. Yeah. But the same thing, Hazel McKellen. I think Brampton should have the 3rd hospital. The 3rd hospital should start, because Brampton has 700,000 people already.
The mayor is looking for a university. Yeah. And I said to Mayor Brown, you don't need another university. The Toronto University in Mississauga can handle all the students from Brampton.
Including the
But
international students.
You need another hospital.
Yeah, absolutely. Including international students. Those both universities, they accommodate everyone, don't they? The third hospital, definitely. The Peel Memorial Hospital was built about 4 years ago. And as a Portuguese community, we went many times to Mississauga as well to do a fundraising. With the Portuguese community, we ended up to raise $1.7 million for Peel Memorial Hospital. So now, that hospital was supposed to start the second phase about 3 years ago, and he hasn't yet. I even know that the shovels went already on the ground for the second phase to start so they can put 250 beds on that hospital. But even so, I think the third hospital should start on their plans. I think if you were a mayor, the third hospital would have been in there.
Well, you know, you can't build a city without making sure that you know what the needs of people. You know what the needs of people are. Absolutely. They need education. They need good schools. So we were able to get good schools, Sheridan College, University campus. You know, we tried to build a city where people could take advantages of the services within the city. Yeah. All the students before the Mississauga campus of the university was built, they're all going into Toronto. Yeah. And it's much better that the students have an opportunity to attend university in their hometown.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And when it comes to hospital, you know, I don't know what we would have done during this pandemic, even in Mississauga, if we hadn't had the second hospital. That Credit Valley Hospital was a blessing. Oh, and Brampton was over.
Absolutely,
They were shipping people to other hospitals. Yeah. You can't grow a city without being conscious of the needs of the people. You got to have good education, got to get good community facilities, and good hospital care. You got to make sure.
Definitely. And I think you were one of the greatest mayors in that aspect. You were able to grab the concept of community. Yeah. One more thing that I have to ask. In Portugal, I know you tried muscatel.
Muscatel.
Tell me about the muscatel. Why you like it?
I don't know. It's very good. I join with the Portuguese practically every Monday, the Jack Perseries and the construction people, Leona, the union. So they have muscatel. It's a delicious drink. And Nelson, of course, who I think he imports it from Chad. From
Nelson Mello.
Oh, he makes sure my muscatel is there.
Dear Mayor, we're going for 1 minute break.
Yeah.
And we'll be back again, okay, please? Okay. We go commercial, please. Olá, eu sou Manuel Alexandre, estou aqui no GOlive TV, a televisão que fala a minha língua.
Hi, I'm Joe Mancinelli, International Vice President of LIUNA, and I'm on GOlive TV.
Hi, I'm John Tory, the Mayor of Toronto, and I think everybody should watch GOlive TV.
I'm watching and I hope you
Alô, alô, aqui é o seu Valença, estou aqui na GOlive TV.
Thank you for watching GOlive TV.
Eu sou o Guilherme Arantes e eu estou aqui com vocês na GOlive TV.
Hoje estamos aqui com o GOlive TV.
Olá, sou o cantor Salgadinho, estou na GOlive TV.
Ora, estamos de volta novamente para ver a energia desta senhora que tem 101 anos e que realmente ainda está aqui para dar e que renovou o contrato como diretora do aeroporto maior do Canadá inteiro, como diretora por mais 3 anos. De maneira que é extraordinária, tem sido uma mayor excelente, é uma pessoa humilde, como vocês veem, está aqui uma facilidade extraordinária. Eu quero também agradecer ao nosso amigo Wilson pelo facto de fazer a amabilidade de convidar a mim para vir aqui on my behalf, pela minha parte. De maneira que quero agradecer a todos eles, Madam Mayor, I know you love flowers. I would love to, on behalf of GOlive and Manuel Alexandre, like to give you these beautiful flowers.
Like your picture.
Thank you so much, Madam Mayor.
Just great.
Thank you. E assim acabamos o nosso programa. Até para a semana, se Deus quiser. Just one more minute. Até para a semana, se Deus quiser. E aqui está um incentivo para todos vocês. Às vezes, quando dizem assim, não sei o que é de fazer, pois reparem que há sempre muito para fazer nesta vida. Não se desencorajem, encorajem sempre que esta senhora seja uma encorajadora na vossa vida e também na minha. Meus amigos, que Deus os conserve saudáveis. Até para a semana. Para a semana iremos falar sobre Unhais da Serra, sobre o jornal daquela vila, o chamado Correio de Unhais, com duas pessoas da direção do Jornal de Unhais. E, seguidamente, iremos ter um Francisco Carrola que irá mostrar fotografias antigas daquela mesma vila. Uma coisa fora do normal. Meus amigos, até para a semana, se Deus quiser. God bless everyone. Deus os abençoe a todos. And thank you, Madam Mayor.